India, the land of Gandhi, a beacon of diversity. But lately, a shadow has fallen over India. Tensions are rising, particularly affecting the Muslim community. The fabric of unity is being tested. For decades, India has prided itself on its secular identity, but this harmony is being threatened. Muslims are increasingly being portrayed as the other. Discrimination against Muslims is becoming increasingly commonplace. They are being pushed to the margins of society. The world watches with bated breath. Will India rise to protect its secular values? The answer lies in the hands of its people. Mumbai, the city of dreams, became a stage for protest. Muslims took to the streets, their voices echoing with anger. The trigger? Inflammatory speeches targeting their community. Hate speech poisoned the air.
Nitesh Rane, a BJP MLA, spewed hateful rhetoric. His words pierced the hearts of millions. These weren't isolated incidents.
The Muslim community refused to remain silent. They were a cry for justice. Amidst the throngs of protesters, certain figures emerged, their voices resonating with power and conviction. Imtiaz Jalil, a prominent Muslim leader, became a beacon of hope. He urged the government to take swift action against the perpetrators of hate. Alongside Jalil stood a legion of activists, students, and ordinary citizens. Their message was clear: hate would not be tolerated. They were the embodiment of courage, standing up for what they believed in. The world watched as these brave individuals stood up for their rights. The Muslim community waited with bated breath for the government's response. Surely, they thought, the authorities would condemn the hate speech and bring the perpetrators to justice. But their hopes were dashed against the rocks of indifference. The government's silence was deafening. Days turned into weeks, and still no concrete action was taken. The perpetrators of hate roamed free, their words continuing to incite violence. The government's inaction sent a chilling message that hate speech against Muslims was acceptable, even condoned.
This silence was more than just a political miscalculation. It was a betrayal of the trust that the Muslim community had placed in their elected representatives. It exposed the deep-rooted biases that existed within the corridors of power.
The world watched in dismay as the Indian government failed to uphold its own constitution. The right to equality, the freedom of religion, these fundamental rights were being trampled upon. The government's silence was a stain on India's democracy. Living on the margins, the plight of Indian Muslims.
The Mumbai protests were a symptom of a deeper problem: the systematic marginalization of Muslims in India. For years, Muslims have been treated as second-class citizens, their voices silenced.
Discrimination seeps into every aspect of their lives, from education to employment, housing to healthcare. They are denied opportunities, their potential stifled by prejudice and fear. A history of discrimination policies fueling the divide.
The marginalization of Muslims in India is not a recent phenomenon. It is rooted in a long and troubled history, marked by colonialism, partition, and the rise of Hindu nationalism. Over the decades, successive governments have enacted policies that have systematically discriminated against Muslims.
The Citizenship Amendment Act, passed in 2019, is a stark example of this discrimination. The law grants citizenship to non-Muslim refugees from neighboring countries, effectively making religion a criterion for citizenship. This blatant discrimination has been widely condemned as a violation of India's secular constitution.
The abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir, which granted special status to the Muslim majority region, is another example of the government's discriminatory policies. The move, which was met with widespread protests and a brutal crackdown, stripped Kashmiris of their autonomy and further alienated the Muslim community.
These policies are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger pattern of discrimination that seeks to marginalize and disenfranchise Muslims. a crisis of belonging, alienation within their own nation. Discrimination and hate have created a profound sense of alienation among Indian Muslims. They feel like strangers in their own country, their loyalty constantly questioned. This crisis of belonging is tearing at the fabric of Indian society. Imagine living where your faith is demonized, your patriotism questioned. This is the reality for millions of Muslims in India today. They are made to feel like the other, their contributions ignored. This alienation has real-world consequences, limiting opportunities and freedoms. It creates a climate of fear and suspicion, eroding trust. The world watches with concern as India grapples with this crisis. The future of India depends on healing these divisions and creating a society where all feel valued. The plight of Indian Muslims has not gone unnoticed. The international community has expressed growing concern over the rise of Islamophobia and the shrinking space for dissent in India. Human rights organizations, foreign governments, and international media outlets have all condemned the Indian government's actions.
The United Nations has called on India to uphold its human rights obligations and protect the rights of all its citizens, regardless of their religion. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom has placed India on its watch list for severe violations of religious freedom.
These condemnations are not mere words. They have real-world consequences. They damage India's reputation on the global stage and make it harder for the country to attract foreign investment and build international partnerships. The Indian government's attempts to dismiss these concerns as foreign interference ring hollow. The world is not interfering in India's internal affairs by calling out injustice and discrimination. It is upholding the universal values of human rights and religious freedom. Despite the challenges, there are glimmers of hope. Amidst the darkness, there are individuals and organizations working tirelessly to promote interfaith dialogue, bridge divides, and build a more inclusive India. They are the unsung heroes of this story. Across the country, interfaith dialogues are taking place, bringing together people of different faiths to share their perspectives, challenge stereotypes, and build understanding. These dialogues are not about erasing differences, but about celebrating them and finding common ground. Grassroots organizations are working to empower marginalized communities, promote education, and advocate for social justice. They are providing a platform for the voiceless and challenging the structures of discrimination. These initiatives may seem small in the face of such immense challenges, but they are significant. They represent the hope that a different future is possible, a future where India lives up to its ideals of unity and diversity. The path to reconciliation is long and arduous, but it is a journey that India must undertake. It requires a collective effort from all segments of society: the government, religious leaders, civil society, and ordinary citizens. The government must acknowledge the problem of Islamophobia and take concrete steps to address it. This includes enacting laws that protect minorities from discrimination, ensuring equal opportunities for all citizens, and holding perpetrators of hate speech accountable. Religious leaders have a crucial role to play in promoting tolerance and understanding. They must use their platforms to challenge prejudice, preach compassion, and remind their followers of the shared values that unite them. Civil society organizations must continue their work of building bridges between communities, promoting interfaith dialogue, and advocating for the rights of all citizens. India's strength lies in its diversity, in its rich tapestry of faiths, cultures, and languages. This diversity is not a weakness to be feared, but a strength to be celebrated. It is what makes India unique and vibrant. The Muslim community is an integral part of this tapestry. Their contributions to India's history, culture, and society are undeniable. To exclude them, to marginalize them, is to diminish India itself. The protests in Mumbai were a wake-up call. They were a reminder that the fight for justice and equality is far from over. They were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the unwavering belief in a better tomorrow. The world watches and waits, hoping that India will choose the path of unity and inclusion. The future of India, its very soul, depends on it.